when we look back in the days and we look maybe 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the requirements weren't so severe.
Yes.
Especially for a man and what he needed to be in order to get with a woman.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the beauty standards were not severe too.
Yes.
So we never had women that were enhancing themselves and then putting a crazy price tag on their body. Like, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
They get their ass done, all of a sudden they got caviar taste and they need a Louis purse with it and a Birkin bag and a Hermes.
To give you a piece of my mind.
Far from Normal Bros, and we back at it again. First of all, I'm gonna need you to tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a mother effing friend to follow and subscribe to your boys. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast platforms as well. You can catch us on YouTube and TikTok. That's Far From Normal Podcast. Make sure you type that into a search engine and see the boys on those clips. We got everything for you. We got the website, www.farfromnormalpodcast.com. We got all the links up there. Make sure you check it out. Of course, YouTube. We're on Instagram as well. That's far_from_normal_podcast. Check it out. You already know. It's your boy Fuzzy Vision. You know I see the world clear. And you know I see the future. And the future is bright. You already know. Fuzzy Vision with 2 N's. If you have any likes, dislikes, rebuttals, or you want to be on the podcast, hit your boy up. Sonny, drop the handle, baby.
You already know what it is. It's your boy Sonny Frames. You can catch me on the gram at Sonny, SONNY, Frames, double S at the end. Make sure when you do check out my Instagram page, check out my stories, because I usually post a lot of stuff that has to do with motivation, inspiration, chasing your dream, and execution. So let's not forget, any dream that you're trying to achieve, the only way that you'll ever achieve it is through execution and putting a plan to motion. So make sure that you don't just stay in the dream world, and make sure you make it a reality.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And Fuzzy, let's get him.
What's your thoughts on the courting process today, and how should it change? Do you think that women should start courting the men that they want, which I feel like they're doing right now?
I think that's happening to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's happening to a certain extent. When I say that, that means like they're having sexual experiences with certain individuals that they think are suitable men for themselves. Do you think?
Yes and no. It depends what they're looking for. So,
so it depends on what they're looking for.
Let's talk about women that want a certain type of guy.
I'm pretty sure most women want a certain type of guy.
Yeah.
But the issue is, are they just...
But more so for long-term purposes.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the women today are choosing men based off what they believe their financial situation is, their status, their economic status, or their social status. And they're not really looking at other aspects of the individual in terms of their value system and or duty to family, the consistent effort that they put into a relationship or building a relationship, communication. I think those things are lost. And do you believe that women should continue to do the courting process, or do you think that should be left to a brother or an uncle or a father? What's your thoughts on that?
But when you say courting process, what are you talking about?
Courting process,
like,
I'm talking about long term.
What are women doing now to court?
Okay, when I'm saying courting process, I'm talking about marriage, long-term relationships where they're in a situation where they're trying to build a family. And I think there are some women that are looking for that, but they're looking for it at a lot older age instead of looking for it at a younger age, where that would be their best bet in order to have a family.
But when you say courting, what are women doing to court men now? Because you said...
Well, their way of courting men, I think their way of courting men would be, showing off certain features of themselves that will attract the opposite
that's
sex.
Not courting. So when we're talking about courting, we're talking about obviously setting up the scenario so that they could win or that they can get
with that person.
So you
That's
don't
what courting
think?
is.
So you don't think when a woman decides to dress
not
a certain
courting,
way, that is,
no.
it's a different form of courting.
No, it isn't,
Courting is
'cause-
not going to be the same as a male's way of courting. Like,
No, but we're going by the definition of courting.
Okay.
So a woman's not courting a male by dressing well. She dresses well typically if she's a good-looking woman. If she's an
Okay.
attractive woman, they don't need to dress well just to court a man. They dress well because they know that, beauty does help them in their day-to-day, whatever it is. It gives them their certain advantages or disadvantages if they choose not to wear it. So for me, if we're talking about should women start to court men, that's a different topic. So if women started to court men, if that's the question, then now we're looking at a whole different aspect. So you're looking at women that are going after specific men that they want. And by them courting that man, they would have to set up the date. They would have to set up the scenario. They would have to organize it in a sense, right? So that's what I look at as in courting. So can that exist?
oh, so
Would
you're
that
going,
be
you're
more
going like the
realistic?
whole 9 yards.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think, like, in this society, at least, a lot of women are pretty, what's the word I can say? A lot of women are more, they take more initiative in relationships than a lot of the men nowadays. Men have,
To what degree? They take a lot of initiatives. Could you let you?
they
you
take
named
a lot of
stuff.
initiatives when it comes to planning and preparing when it comes to a relationship. So
Planning and preparing what?
they have an idea of what they want and more so than what the man wants. So a lot of men are more nonchalant when they get into a relationship with women, at least from the men I know. And even with my personality, just being more nonchalant when it comes to certain relationships and not having boundaries and, just being very flexible when it comes to certain things. And unfortunately, a lot of men nowadays don't like to be too confrontational, especially when it comes to a relationship.
Yes.
Because that's frowned upon, right? So you rather just get along to get along, right? So
Go along to get along.
go along to get along. So a lot of the times, the women find themselves planning, preparing for stuff more so than the man, and then they're figuring out, oh, this man is a lazy guy, lacks ambition, and a lot of the women are steamrolling through these men because they're starting to look at men as not being worthy of them. Certain men, of course. And you probably heard this when you talk with women and they go, there's no one to date. They're all bums. They're all this. They're all that. Don't you hear that rhetoric?
Yes, of
Like,
course.
People already deeming majority of men as like
Beneath
pretty
them.
low and beneath them. So when it comes to women courting men, that's a different angle because now the onus would be on the woman to try and seek out these men that they want. But again, they're going to have to bring something enticing to that man. And what they think is enticing may not be what's enticing to him.
But that's what I'm talking about, because you're saying that she would have to set up the date, she would have to do certain things that the male would do.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that in the courting process and in courtship, for a woman, it would have to be different. It can't
Well, then
be
that's
the
a different
same
word. That's what I'm trying to say. We're talking about a different thing then.
No, we're still talking about the same thing, but I think it cannot be the same. It's just like if a woman and a man go up against each other in a sport, right? The same rules that applies to the male, if it applies to the female, they're not gonna thrive in those specific sports, right? So if you put a woman basketball team against a male's basketball team and they're playing the same game, do you think they have an advantage in that situation?
If they're playing the same game?
Same game. They're in the same game. So it's like on one spectrum you got the male's basketball team, on the other spectrum you have the women's basketball team. They're going up to so basically I'm saying like NBA and WNBA have now converted. So now you're not only facing male NBA teams, you're facing WNBA teams. So do you think they can play at the same caliber as a male?
Physically,
male's team?
no.
No, so that's what I'm saying. Even in courtship, there has to be certain rules that they got to go by and abide by that will be in their benefit. And then there's going to be certain rules and regulations that goes with the male side that they have to abide by that make something work. But they can't play with the same rules and expect the same results. Because now the males are uncomfortable that they're getting taken to the dinner date because they still have that mind frame of, you know, the traditional male or what the male's supposed to do. But now they're taking on that role and they're doing it, and it
Yeah.
makes them look masculine.
Yeah,
now.
but my whole thing is like women that do this are obviously not your traditional women. This is a certain type of woman we're talking about that would be trying to go down this route. This is not going to be available to every single woman, but specific women, especially women that are more career based and have accomplishments, may not want to deal with, you know, what's on the market for themselves, because they're going to feel that they achieve too much to deal with lowly you, right? Like, you know, if you're not doing anything that's of her caliber or higher, she's gonna deem you of not worthy. So women of that caliber are gonna have to court men, because at the end of the day, the percentages are gonna be a lot smaller, and at the end of the day, those men aren't going to require the same things. Or aren't going to require what you're offering. So just because you have a good job, someone that has a better job than you won't need your money to make their life any much better. So a lot of the times the same rules won't apply, right? So the guy that's doing, or well-to-do man, he might not even be looking at the well-to-do woman. He might be looking even lower than that, because he's able to provide, you know, and make up what that woman lacks.
But see, that's what I'm talking about, because you're saying that for, you know, if a woman decides to court and, you know, do the whole dating process and figuring out the date, where you're going, what you're doing.
Women do this too.
I know some women do this, but what I'm saying is, if this is a well-to-do man and he's, you know, accomplished big things, he's used to being the dominator. That's what, like,
That's
he's
what I'm
in.
saying. I'm not
So-
saying this is gonna be a successful practice.
Okay. So I didn't understand.
I'm not
where
saying
you're going with
no.
this. Okay.
For me, I'm not saying this is
Okay.
gonna be successful,
Okay.
but it's getting to the point where I believe this is gonna be a strategy that, you know, women are doing currently and are gonna do in the future.
So they're
just
gonna
'cause how I
believe that
see-
this is the right process to get a
Yes,
high
because
value
a
man.
lot of women think that, you know, if you're more career driven and you have money and you have a career and you have these type of accomplishments in your life, apparently you become a better candidate to get into a relationship with. But that's not how the world works. The world doesn't care about the job you have and what money you're making. In the case of the woman, not all the time this matters, right? Now, obviously, for her family and people she knows, people are proud of her, people, whatever, had her high expectations and she reached those goals. And great, clap it up for her, you know? That doesn't make her more valuable to the men that are, you know, of that caliber that she's at. So we always have to keep that in mind when it comes to, you know, a woman trying to find what it is she's looking for. Unfortunately, the man is the one that does the searching typically. I'm not saying you can't set yourself up, put yourself in a good scenario that, you know, that certain guy can look at you or may, you know, approach you. But fact of the matter is, you know, the man's going to make that choice dependent on you as the woman and what you bring to the table. So women could court men if the man is willing to reverse the roles, right? If he's willing to deal with the woman like that. And the women are like this nowadays. They're more masculine, if I say, in that sense. They will take initiative. They won't sit back and just wait for things to come to them, because they're not happy with what's out there.
Yeah.
And then you hear it. Like I said,
Yes.
when you talk about dating, what are these women saying about the men that are out there?
They're just not.
They're bums. They're just not it.
Yeah.
I need to move somewhere else. I need to go to a different country. But what are the men saying? The same thing. Oh, I can't deal with these women. Too much attitude, too aggressive, too masculine. So we're both arguing against each other because of the changes that's happening
So I
with
think
relationships.
the common denominator is that they have to search elsewhere, and I think their principle can work in theory, but in terms of what they're looking to catch, I don't think that method is the most productive method in catching what you're looking for, because let's say they don't have to necessarily do that. Eventually, if they're domineering by their own personality traits, it's gonna show regardless. Even if they don't come off as, you know, I don't want to make my man feel, you know, below me, or I don't want him not to feel masculine. I want to give him, you know, his space and make sure that he feels confident in his and you know, in who he is. Eventually, that domineering personality is going to come out. So they can't even hide it. But what I'm saying is, I think that principle can work if they're dating a foreigner. I think it works.
It works in that situation.
In that situation.
Why?
Because then the foreigner would look at it, well, it maybe cultural differences is why we can't quite figure it out. So they're not going to pinpoint that she's so masculine. They're going to pinpoint the fact that culturally we're just different. So I think women in this part of the world do behave like this, and they're going to categorize most women to behave in that certain manner, when the truth of the matter is not all women are behaving in that certain manner.
See, the funny thing is, like, the women listening to this, they're going to be like, oh my God, like, these guys think that's masculine because you're doing your own thing, because you're making your own money, and how's that masculine? Because you're telling them, like, why can't we just do it together? Why can't we just, you know, they're going to kind of frame it this way.
For sure.
They're going to have that pushback. And my whole thought on this situation is that, you know, whatever a woman thinks of this opinion is fine. But again, there's men in the room in different spaces that have the same sentiment and view a lot of these traits as masculine traits. It is what it is, whether you want to believe it or not, whether it's a fair assessment or not, that's irrelevant. You know, we just have to call it as it is. And unfortunately, a lot of men do not like that type of, you know, trait. And sometimes just because you're making money doesn't mean you're going to have this trait.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of the times it comes with that. Just like with powerful men, they become, you know, power hungry, and they start doing whatever they want to do because they're on top of the world. Personalities start to change as you know, your finances
or maybe
get
not
better,
even the
your importance
personality.
gets
I don't
better.
even think necessarily that the personality changes. I think it just amplifies whatever you already were.
That too. But at the end of the day, if you have the power to do something you weren't able to do before, how would you know you're capable of
That's
doing
true.
that?
That's true.
So
You've
like
opened up
new
a
things,
new
you open
level.
up. Yeah, you open up new doors for yourself.
Yes.
Like if I have a Billy on me,
Yeah.
and I'm walking around, like I can do whatever I want. Like I'm at least thinking that I can do whatever I want,
God
whenever
status.
I want,
Yeah.
however I want. So who's to stop me at that point, right? And that's what happens when you're at that type of peak. Obviously, we're talking of extremes.
Yeah.
But again, you choose what you want to do. You know, no one can tell you anything, right? You're at that level. But again, I wanted to talk about even when we were talking about you know, women and in terms of them courting men and trying to go after what it is they like. What's your thoughts on the men nowadays too, when it comes to even like approaching women and just talking with women? Because I hear a lot of guys nowadays, they're not really so active when it comes to dating women, at least from the men that I've spoken to. A lot of guys are saying that, you know, a lot of this comes with problems and they're trying to focus on their purpose. So what's your thoughts on like people trying to focus on their purpose and eliminate, you know, the distraction of entertaining women, even though there may be good women out there that could help their life out?
Well, I think it kind of depends on where they stand financially, and that plays a big factor for why they're not going to be chasing certain women, because they know that that's going to come with a cost, right? I mean, sometimes they're weighing their options, and they're seeing that, well, can I really keep up with her financially, you know, while I'm still chasing my purpose at the same time. So I'm trying to figure myself out while I'm still trying to court a woman at the same time. Now, this is where we got to get rational. Me chasing my purpose and putting that extra funds to my purpose would be a more smarter route and smarter decision to make, because in the long term, I'll win over there. While as if I just decided to, you know, invest in a woman and put my financial earnings into a woman, you know, if they decide to bounce because for whatever reason, you know, emotionally she's here today and then emotionally she's not tomorrow, or she's looking at you and you don't seem to, she's seen that you're ambitious at the beginning, and she's seen that, you know, you're after something, but it's not panning out how she expected. She thought, at a specific time you were going to get to a specific goal, and you're not. It's taking longer than she thought. There's other potential candidates out there. How long is she going to continue to wait on you and decide, you know what, the smartest action is for me to leave? Now you put yourself in a dilemma, because if you were to take that financial investment and put it towards whatever your craft and whatever you wanted to do, you'd be in a better situation. So I can see why people, guys in general, would want to, back out of that situation. And then also the time consumption, the time consumption, the energy, and that energy and time consumption all could be put to other things that could better your life in terms of certain skills that you can learn, certain experiences that you can have. But, you put everything on pause because you decided to choose a woman over whatever extracurricular activity you wanted to do. So that can affect you on other levels.
Okay, so say you're on your purpose and you're doing what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So now is the time you have to think to get into a relationship?
I think as we were talking about in one of our podcasts, when it comes to your purpose, whoever you're surrounded by during your climb to the top to whatever your purpose is, you'll also be surrounded. So you're going to be surrounded by certain men, and you're going to be surrounded by certain women that are going to be within that atmosphere of what you're doing. Now, I'm not saying close yourself off to every woman. I'm saying that, be selective on the women that you let into your life. Make sure you get to know them better. Make sure they're around you enough to understand where you're coming from as well, so you can have those type of conversations and whatnot. And if it seems like it's working out and you see her often, then you could probably pursue her. You know what I mean? And see where it goes, because you guys are in the same realm.
The time you're saying that you invest and the money you're saying that you invest is still going to be the same, even if you're
but the only good thing about it is that they're in your realm. So they still they could still assist you in certain things. Maybe certain things that you're doing, they can assist you because they're in the realm of where you're at. They could possibly help you with your network.
Yeah, but how about if you're in a scenario where you don't make that much money, and then you end up, say, dating, or along your path you end up meeting somebody and you start having a relationship with this person, but you see the same traits that you have in them. So say you're an ambitious person, you're looking to do better for your life, you're trying new things and whatever, and you find someone that also isn't financially up there neither and is still struggling the same way, but they're willing to help you and they can understand what it is you're doing because they're kind of on the same path. What's your thoughts on that when it comes to the fact of the time wasting and the allocation of your money being spent on dates and instead of being spent on what it is you're trying to work on?
That's an interesting question. Well, what I would say for a situation like that is, if you're, what's the word I'm looking for? If your goals are in alignment and you guys are able to connect on a certain level, I think you should give it a chance. I mean, again, we don't control all of our time, and we don't control where the output of our energy goes to all the time, right? We can only control so much of our energy, so much of our time. And again, you want to allocate it to the best of your ability, but you also have to be open to other possibilities. That's what I would say. So I think if you guys are both on that climb, I mean, it wouldn't hurt you so much to, allow them to get into your life or into your space, or even collaborating, making something work between both of you guys and pushing forward together. I think that helps to build a stronger relationship, because you guys went through the trenches together, or even on the climb, they seen you where you were and you seen them where they were. There's a tighter bond built in those situations because you've seen a person before they got to wherever they're trying to get to.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where I think why you shouldn't like close doors off. You know, in some scenarios, we're saying we're talking about obviously does it make sense in some scenarios whether you know you're doing good or trying to get to where you need to get to. It doesn't make sense to be in the dating field and playing these games when you have things you have to be focused on, right? And I understand it is time consuming. It is money being spent, even though that's always downplayed. It's always downplayed on the man. Oh, it's only 200. It's only 100. But again, the man is going on probably plenty of dates, and you're not the only one. He's trying to get to know. Some of them didn't work out. Some, you know, went where they went. But point of the matter is they're resources, and resources come at a cost. So no man is going to be happy about just giving out resources just to give them out. And every resource they give out obviously comes with consequences, because the more they put towards something that's not fruitful or that's not giving them any benefit, they don't get that money back, nor do they get the time that they spent to get the money. So a lot of the times, you know, men don't want to participate. Like I was telling you earlier, a lot of men don't want to participate because they kind of want to hoard the money, because they know dating is an expensive game to play. So my question is, because a lot of people obviously want to date, but according to what we're talking about, it seems to me if you don't have your situation stable, then dating is not something you should be doing. But at the same token, when we look back in the days and we look maybe 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the requirements weren't so severe.
Yes.
Especially for a man and what he needed to be in order to get with a woman.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the beauty standards were not severe too.
Yes.
So you never had women that were enhancing themselves and then putting a crazy price tag on their body. Like, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm trying to say. They get their ass done, all of a sudden they got caviar taste, and they need a Louis purse with it, and a Birkin bag, and a Hermes belt. Like, you know, their whole lifestyle starts changing. Man, you know, they went from a basic chick to all of a sudden a 5-star. So with that being said, do you think that's dangerous, and do you think that's why relationships struggle a lot more? Because now the financial part is a big burden.
Oh yeah, for sure.
On, you know, families or on couples, especially in terms of sustaining the relationship. So do you think that that's why like relationships and a lot of things are failing? Because at the end of the day, we all know that probably if your finances aren't up to par, the woman you're talking to, it will be a short stint.
Oh, 100%. I think even when it comes to your finances, I mean, I don't know how much you're willing to even reveal, to be quite honest, because you know, once they know what your finances is, you know, at any time they're gonna be like, well, if it's good, obviously they're not gonna say anything, right? And if it's bad, well, they're gonna start rethinking how long should I stick with this guy, or, you know, what's it gonna take for him to get to the next level. So yeah, again, that comes back down to how long should I stick around before he's not even worthy of my time anymore.
So don't you think, with that being said, if the woman's thinking like this, and obviously all women will say, I don't think like that, I think more of the person. If he treats me well, then I'll, you know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
So my thing is, if that's the thought process, like if women are thinking this type of way, don't you think that takes away from certain men, like that would have been probably a good match for them?
100%. And I mean, that's the problem that a lot of women do face. And, you know, and they'll go to the length of dating somebody long distance just in order to fill their quota or fill their checklist, to check the boxes, right? But then those long-term relationships are so superficial in the sense that you only see, and it just remains in the honeymoon stage, because you only see a person a couple times, either a month or, you know, couple times in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And you don't really know the individual. At the end of the day, after your phone call with that person, they could be living with somebody else.
There can be a lot of secrets.
There's so many
yeah.
secrets that can happen.
In both cases,
Yeah,
regular
yeah.
scenario, but long distance is even far
Yeah.
more. Let's just say there's way more mystery to long-term
There is a lot
relationship.
more
Yes.
mystery, and those things where you can build a bond and the connections. I personally believe that can't be forged from a long distance perspective, especially if they're gonna live out there for a long period of time. If they're working towards getting to your location, that's a little different. There's something to work towards. But if they're not there for a long duration of time, they definitely got other stuff going on. Maybe they don't, but I think maybe they do.
But what's your thoughts on like people that really agree to long-term relationships? Like, is it so bad their dating pool in their city that they can't find any candidate but somebody that's long distance that is a strain to even get to see, such a issue to get together, and so much planning and preparing just to do simple things that you could have done with somebody closer to your area. Like, where do you think that comes from? Because we were talking about options before, and this pickiness, this guy has to do this and has to be that. That specific need we need, the specific wants we want, the specific wants we need in our partners, we seek outside in different countries. Like, when has that become like a good idea?
I think that started to become a good idea when, what's the word I'm looking for? It started to become a good idea when both parties didn't necessarily want one of the parties to know what their lifestyle was and what their living conditions were. Or, it's easier to hide.
That sounds like 90 Day Fiance.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember 90 Day Fiance? These guys would be living the worst life.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They go to a third world country, they're kings.
For sure.
So maybe it makes sense.
And that's why it makes
yeah.
sense because, the facade behind it where you are whatever you want to be. You can recreate yourself. You can be whoever you want to be, and that person just has to accept it for whatever they see. So it's no different than social media. If you
that's what I was gonna say. But even dating apps, is no different
dating
from
apps
that
as well.
Too. Like how you portray yourself.
No, but the thing is about dating apps is eventually you're gonna meet each other within the city, because if they're still in the city, you can meet this person,
there's a chance to
and
meet the
you
person.
could actually.
Well, they
see
can
them
be
for
in
who
and
they are.
out. They can be in and out.
After in and out, then
they
you'll
can
have
put that
issue.
portrayal to get what they want. If
Yeah.
they're looking for something quick.
Yeah.
They can put a portrayal that, they're this big baller,
Yeah.
that they own a yacht, that they have a Ferrari,
Yeah.
that they live in a condo, and then you can get what you want and then skirt off. I mean, you can disappear.
Oh,
if
100%.
that's what you're looking for. Of course, if you're looking, I guess the onus of responsibility is not on you when you're in a long distance relationship.
Yes.
You don't have the responsibility to have to take the said woman or man out on a date frequently or have to check in at least like physically. You can check in obviously through text. You can probably text daily, but then the day,
Some
that's
people get
artificial.
satisfaction. No, but some people get satisfaction off just the thought process of somebody cares about me. Somebody's giving me a call.
Yes, everyone likes that, and I think some people just like the idea of being with somebody that's not in their vicinity.
Yes.
I think people like the idea of it because it feels like, especially the women, like a romantic sense.
They could still do what they want to do without the repercussions.
Too much repercussions.
Yeah, of their actions.
And judgments and stuff like that. And to be real, sometimes, having that air of distance makes the relationship work, right?
Yes.
Because when you come together and you start to see each other's tendencies and things you dislike, all of a sudden there's a wrench in the relationship. So sometimes long distance relationships are a preventative means of liking someone in a specific frame, and that's the frame they see them in. So they
It's
see
almost
them
like
in
a
a long distance
mediator.
frame.
It's like that boundary of country to country is almost like a mediator.
Yes,
It's like a buffer.
it is a buffer because you can kind of toy with each other's emotions
Yes.
from being so far apart, right? You can
And even
say whatever
arguments, you
wanna
can
say.
opt out immediately. You know, if you're on the
Yes.
phone and you guys are disagreeing on certain points, you could be like, yeah, oh, something came up.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you. Reception's bad. I'm going in the basement, or like, oh, I'm working out here in the desert. You know,
Yeah,
bad reception.
there's a lot of
Get
shit you
outta
can
there.
fake. Let's just say
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
long-term relationship. But I've never been a fan of that.
Not me
Like, I
either.
don't think I would date somebody that was long distance.
Yes.
No, I don't think I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Because it just wouldn't make sense to me logistically. Like, I
Again,
wouldn't
time
wanna
waster.
have
I would
a-
just consider it as a
Yeah,
time waster.
I don't want a pen pal. I don't want to be
That
messaging
too.
you every day and I can never see you and I don't know what you're up to.
And that's the
for
question.
me.
The question is, to what end?
To what end? Yeah,
and
unless
what
you're willing,
is-
unless they're willing to relocate and they're in the process of that, or
Yes.
you're willing to relocate.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, to what end? Because I mean, how long am I gonna wait before I see you again? And why allow somebody to get my hopes up and then get it shot down because you're not coming for whatever extensive period of time, or now I have to make the preparations to go and visit you at wherever you're at just for things to work. It's like, I'm supposed to travel 8 hours to meet
But
you.
at the same time, I think like people are desperate for love. Like honestly, I think that like we're sold this Disney fairy tale.
Yeah.
And, the guy that I seen on my trip to here, and
Yeah.
we seen it all
Yeah.
the time. You hear these stories, just like, yeah, I seen this guy. He met me by the beach. And
Yeah,
like, he
yeah.
just came with flowers, and it was so romantic. Then this and that. So a lot of people get caught up in the moment.
Oh yeah.
So when you get caught up in the moment, your emotions get involved.
Mm-hmm.
This is how these long distance relationships get formed.
Mm-hmm.
Because a quick fling turns into a long distance where it's like, well, I don't want to forget about this person. I don't want to just, disappear on that person. I feel like we had a connection. Let's see where it goes. But
Yeah.
realistically, in your heart of hearts that this is going to be a steep hill to climb, and you
I
don't
don't
even
think
know
they
you're
know. I
willing
think-
to
I
climb
think-
that hill. No, I think you're hopeful. You're just
Yeah, I think
hopeful
you're
in the
hopeful.
situation.
It reminds me of, I would say, like religion in a sense where it's like you got to open yourself up to the Lord,
Yeah.
where they're gonna open themselves out. They're gonna open themselves up to the relationship, and whatever comes, let it come. I've come out here. They're basically in search of a relationship, and they're basically in search of a fairy tale storyline. So they trick their mind to believing in this fairy tale, and every little thing that happens is part of the story. I met this guy at the beach.
Yeah.
He was running down. It was like some Baywatch story. He was running on the beach. He was a lifeguard. Seen him running near the water. He flipped his hair. He gave me a look. And off to the races. It was set in stone. Immediately, he walked over to me and said, "How's it going, little lady?" You know what I mean? Like, they have this
Something out of a movie.
storyline.
Yeah, they want the storyline.
Yeah, they want the storyline, yeah.
They want to explain it that way.
Yeah.
That excitement. They like to
excitement,
have that
yeah.
excitement. So unfortunately, like those emotions will overtake you, and then
Yeah.
you'll start something that you weren't really in it for real. You just felt that strong emotion at the time, and you're like, you know what?
Yes.
Let's see where this goes. Usually, those situations end in disappointment. That's just what I've noticed from that. But
I think that's mainly, I think that's more of a North American thing because the fast-paced society of everything has to be quick and fast, where it's
that
like,
too, there's no patience.
there's
in
no
it.
patience, right? So if they feel that butterfly effect quickly, they automatically assume that, oh, this he must be the one. Let me try and pursue it. He gave me a feeling I never felt before.
Yeah,
Or he's
exactly.
giving me an adrenaline rush.
Most of the time, it's that. It's that
Yeah.
adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Butterflies
Dopamine
in the
hit.
stomach.
Yeah, that dopamine hit. Yeah.
And you can't stop people from that. I think that's just like human nature. That's just we go after what our energy is attracted to. So we feel like our energy.
That's why they always
attracts
say,
us.
like, I go based off the vibes. I go based off the energy.
For sure.
I go based off, spirits. Our spirits are aligning. The stars are aligning. They start naming all these different things that they have no control over to justify why they're doing this long-term relationship and what they felt at the moment.
A long distance.
Yeah,
Long distance relationship.
Yeah, the long distance relationship and what they felt at that moment.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Like I said, when it comes to dating, because like I said, long term for me, I couldn't do it. It's
But at the
just,
same
I
time,
need that
they're
closeness.
devastated when it doesn't work, which I'm always so. I find it strange how you could be devastated that it didn't work out, but yet you've never really seen the person. I can understand if you see the person regularly, but if you don't see them regularly and you become, distraught and hurt, I'm always confused at how that can happen, because what bond did you really build when you don't even see the individual? Like, what kind of grip did they have on
That's
you?
what I said about like long distance relationships. You paint a picture. You see them in a specific frame, and then you just have that frame of them. They're in a still shot. So you just have them in that environment on that day when you met them there, like, and then this restaurant. So you have only a good frame, good picture of the person. So that's all you have. So now, if things don't work out, you don't know the negative sides. You don't know, you get what I mean? So you're still attached to that side of
frame.
things. And you're looking for that type of feeling again, but that feeling fades. It's funny because like a lot of those shows would show that, like where it's like they, someone went on a vacay and met someone quick, and then it's like, oh, they proposed to me in a week, and then all of a sudden the person, they're trying to get them a visa or whatever to come back there, and now they're trying to see the flaws of both individuals, right? Where one person said that they did this and that's wrong, they said they did that, that's wrong, that's a lie, this is a lie, oh, what else is a lie, what else is a secret? So now you're starting from scratch. When you started in a long distance relationship and now you get back and you meet each other, you have to start from scratch again, because now it's like you're just meeting each other for the first time all over again.
Yes.
And that's why I don't believe in those scenarios working, because too many times when people get together after those long distance relationships and they actually decide to move in together or move in the same area, most of the time it doesn't work out because the environment's different. Someone has more of an advantage than the other person, especially if you're talking about an immigrant.
Oh, yeah.
So all of a sudden the dynamics in where they're living is
Changes,
changing.
yeah.
So their mood is changing. Who they are, they could have been a big shot from the country they were in.
Yeah.
Now they're in a country
People don't
where
factor that in.
they're a second-rate citizen, according to some people. And all of a sudden they're treated differently, looked at differently. Confidence not the same. Habits are changing. So much shit can happen with a long distance relationship, even when you move together.
Even in terms of like their religion and what they believe in, things that you weren't
everything
even
will
aware
come to
of.
the table. Everything will come to the table when it gets to that point. So point of the matter is, like I said, we always talk about this, like dating in the community. That's your best bet with people that you know, people that you're around, people that can vouch for, because you don't have to deal with, unknown things that may shock you, because you would have already been told that. Someone would have already gave you that
Yeah, either
advice.
somebody would have told you that, or you just talking to the individual, you
would
would
have
have
figured that out, right?
Yeah.
Because you would be able to talk to that person outside of the romantic side of things.
Yeah.
You can just generally speak to them,
Yeah.
get to know the person before you even pursue anything.
Yeah.
So that's where there's benefits to that. But when you deal with, again, even strangers, we talk about it. Like I said, dating people that you don't know from nowhere. You're going on a dating app, you meet people you don't know from anywhere, and you date them and you take them on these dates, and you don't know anything about them. You don't know how much dates they've been on, how much men they've been with, how much women they've been with, what their intentions are. Usually it's surface level.
Yeah.
Usually it's very
It
surface
usually
level.
is. It usually is.
And nothing's really brought about until after sex. And then after sex, it's like, oh, what's going on? What are we doing?
And that too, I always find that strange, where the exchange of sex now
relationship.
for a relationship now ends up becoming a conversation of what are we, where are we heading to. It's like I thought we were just having a moment. I didn't know that one moment is supposed to be
Our future.
Our future. That's supposed to determine everything.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think when women have sex with a man that they went on a date with, or that went on multiple dates with, why do you think a lot of the times that said woman will try to throw in what are we, or ask questions about where this is headed to after that point?
I think that's a hard question. I think that's a question that a woman would have to answer, because as a man, I still don't understand it. Because if you went on multiple dates,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that you've had sex with. Even though you're interested in me at the time being, you were interested in somebody else before me, right? And you may have had a sexual encounter with those individuals as well. The same thing that you're asking me right now, did you ask those guys as well? I mean, that's a question, right? And then if you
That's a
ask,
good question.
and if you ask those guys as well,
Yeah.
where does that put me now in the charts?
Exactly.
Because I'm
Third
confused.
choice, second choice.
You know what I mean? I'm
First
confused. I
choice.
don't even know where I'm at the charts. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like, all I know is that I can't allow that one moment to dictate what my future is gonna be.
See, I'm under the same impression. Like, I feel like if you go on a date, right, and it's like I said, it can be 1 date, 2 dates, or 3 dates, whatever amount of dates, and then now you have sex with this woman. Of course, most likely, if you went on a date with her, you're communicating with her, you're talking with her. However you bonded, however you got to your link up. Point of the matter, say sex happens, you guys were attracted to each other. Adults are adults. At the end of the night, sex happens. You enjoyed yourself. He enjoyed himself. Whatever the case is, and then, that seems to be the wrench. When that sex happens in a relationship, the dating phase, it seems to me that the dynamics start to change on both ends. So again, the guy's no longer in pursuance. So he's not necessarily doing as much as he did prior to having sex with you. That's going to be the argument, right? Men are going to be like, well, I got it now. I don't need to take you on a date no more. We should just link up and kind of have a casual thing going. Obviously, that doesn't work with many women. Women will tell you, like, I'm not in it for that.
Oh, yeah, at some point, yeah.
And they'll tell you I'm not in it for that at that point, or they'll ask the question, like, what are we? And put the kind of ultimatum on the guy, and the guy has to decide now in his scenario, like, okay, well, this is a weird question because it's coming up at a awkward time, right? Like, it usually comes at an awkward time when you're not expecting it. And then you have to come up with this, whether you come up with a lie or you come up with the truth, you're going to have to deal with it and you're going to have to answer to it. And the problem with a lot of these scenarios is that's a conversation that takes many conversations. It's not just a one-time conversation. So I think the problem with women, like, giving those type of ultimatums or bringing that type of thing up is that it's not a one-time conversation. I think the biggest thing is communication when it comes to even having sex with the individual. I don't think a woman should have it in her head that because I gave you sex, like, the next step is a relationship.
Yeah.
I think she has to look at, what else it is she's willing to do to be in a relationship, or what she's willing to do for a relationship to even happen. Because I think every woman wants to be in a relationship with somebody that likes them and treats them nicely and all that type of thing. But men aren't going to put every single woman they date in a relationship. It's just not possible.
100%. And it's funny that you say it like that, because when a man goes on a date, right, and they're expecting sex, it doesn't matter that the man is expecting sex. That doesn't mean that you're going to get sex.
Absolutely.
Right? And there's some men that will be direct and be like, hey, so are we going to your house?
Yeah.
So what are we doing? The date's done. What are we trying to do now?
What's up?
They'll put the ball in your
They'll
court,
put the
right?
ball in your court, for
right?
sure.
They'll give you the ultimatum. So do you see something going on with us, or not? Let me know so I know where I stand. If nothing's there, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you even see the memes. You see the jokes where a guy goes to a date, and then the bill comes in, and then after he goes, so am I coming to your place tonight? It's like, definitely not. And he's like, yeah, we can split the check, please.
Well, we've heard of this.
I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, so when guys come out and they say what they want, women are quick to be like, "Whoa, take it easy, cowboy. I'll let you know when I'm ready."
That is true.
You know what I mean?
That is true.
So now, when a woman now tries and puts you on the backpedaling and throw the ultimatum at you, you have to be like, "Wait, hold on, cowgirl. I'll let you know when I'm ready." Just
That's
because
a
you
big fact.
just because you threw it at me, that doesn't necessarily mean
I need to acquiesce.
I need to acquiesce to whatever you want.
Yes, because too many times that is very, very good fact that you said there. Very good point. Sorry, because like reiterate what you said actually.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
basically what I'm saying is when guys take a woman on a date, you know, some men are very direct when they say what they want,
yes.
and then women don't always acquiesce to the man's demands.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
now when a woman asks what they want, it doesn't necessarily mean that the man needs to acquiesce to their demand, but they're expecting you to acquiesce to their demand.
Well, they're expecting you to just accept their
They accept
demands
it,
and
exactly.
just go along with it. But like you said, when there's many times that, you know, men have been on dates with women and the woman's not willing to put out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or, you know, even to even give you a kiss at the end of the day. Like,
exactly.
even that,
Something as simple as that.
Even something as simple as that, they might not be willing to do because they're like, well, I don't know you that much
Yeah.
and I don't want to seem like this and that. So like you said, you know, when it comes down to it and say when sex is on the table after a couple of dates and you did what you had to do. You courted her. She enjoyed her time. She obviously went on multiple dates with you. Sex is natural
course of action.
Natural course of action in this day and age.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is going to be, most people are going to be sexually active if
Yeah.
they're dating.
Yeah.
So when that happens, and again, this is a situation where both parties are benefiting from sex.
Yes.
No one's going to tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
If a dude's fucking, if the woman's fucking, I don't care. They're both fucking. That's how I see it. And they're both getting pleasure. If it wasn't pleasurable to you, hey, that it is what it is. You know, not every sexual experience is pleasurable for everyone, but hey, you guys had sex. That's the bottom line. And yes, the man typically has to earn this. I've heard many women say, you have to earn this. I've been told this. So you earning that, you had to use your time, you had to give attention, energy, and money towards making that happen.
Yeah.
Sex might have not been the only thing you wanted. You could have wanted a relationship out of this too. So maybe it made sense to invest all those resources, right? Because you have to do that if you want a good woman or if you want to deal with, you know, if you want to deal with a good woman, these are resources you're always going to have to give up. So no one's opposed to that. But again, when you do that and then say the woman feels the reward for that is sex, right? So you've gotten rewarded now. That's how she might feel. Like, I gave you something, and hold on. She's like, I gave you something here now. So, like, I gave you my body. That comes with the responsibilities, apparently, because that's what they might come tell you next. Not every woman's like this. Some women will have sex just to have fun. But a lot of women, their tactic is, let's discuss what we are, where we're headed after we've already had sex. After we've already enjoyed each other in a sexual way, let's now talk about a relationship. Not beforehand, not, you know, when we're dating and trying to see what's happening, we say it afterwards. Now when you say it afterwards, most men naturally are going to feel bad about saying anything otherwise, right? They're going to have some confliction there. They're going to say to themselves, okay, well, now if I say this, most likely the girl's going to leave, or, you know, it's going to cause more issues if I'm not really trying to be on board. Or the man can say, hey, this is my exit. You know, my time is done here because I'm not looking for anything serious. So that's when that part of it will be exposed. And I think that's the part where a lot of women feel like they're being used in some scenarios, when guys might promise them X, Y, and Z when it comes to the beginning of the courtship.
Yeah.
And then once, say, sex is on the table.
Both parties are being used.
But again, both parties are being used because the man had to give up his resources in order to get what it is he wanted. And again, you don't need to give up sex. That's not a requirement.
Yeah.
But you know in your heart of hearts that the man's not gonna stick around too long
If you don't.
if you're giving him the runaround, especially if he's spending money and effort and
Well,
energy.
he's just gonna feel that you're not really interested in the individual.
Yes, he's gonna get
So-
that.
So once he gets that feeling, he's gonna be okay. You know what? Let me go elsewhere. Unless you're a virgin or for whatever religious reasons and stuff of that nature, you've never slept with anybody. That's a different case. But if you had sex in the past, like if you had sex prior, before you, of course they're gonna expect that at some point, especially if they're going on multiple dates with you. But yeah, I was gonna say one of the things I was gonna say is women are the gatekeepers of sex and men are the gatekeepers of relationships. That's why they try and put the ultimatum on you when they try and push for the relationship after the fact that they already gave up the sex.
But for me, that's like, I don't like that type of style. I don't like that type of way of trying to get a relationship out of somebody.
Yeah.
Me personally. Reason why I don't like that, because to me, you put me in a maze. You put me in
Conundrum?
I'd say conundrum, but I didn't know everyone would get that one. But you put me in a conundrum where it's like, I now have to make a decision here where it's like, why didn't we communicate this beforehand? Why didn't we talk about this
If
prior
that's what
to
you
this?
wanted,
If that's
yeah.
what you wanted, because you always have to think about it, even too, because like I said, we all, people date, have casual sex. These are normal things, so it's not, something that people are ashamed of or anything. It's not nothing to be ashamed of. If that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But at the same time, it's like, when you're out there and you say meet somebody and you go on a date and you have sex, like, you're not having the implications of, oh, I'm gonna date this person as my girlfriend now, or I'm gonna make this guy, even the woman sometimes not gonna be like, okay, I had sex with this guy, so therefore I'm gonna want him to be my man. Like, a lot of people have casual sex where nothing's coming out of it. You enjoyed your night, but don't you feel like sex is always the catapulting measure to a relationship?
Definitely
Like,
the catalyst.
it's the catalyst. Like, sorry, yeah, exactly. So it's like, if you eliminate sex, all of a sudden you don't have no pressure on you. But once you add sex, it seems like all of a sudden the stakes got high for you. And it's like, what are we? Because you're not gonna get this privilege unless.
So they're kind of leveraging.
Which I don't.
sex.
Yeah, that's the thing, is where sex is becoming a leverage point, where it's like, you can't get this privilege of sex if it's not gonna turn into a relationship. But then you ask yourself, well, then why were we having casual sex before the relationship conversation? So that type of mixed, they're doing things that aren't making sense. Their actions aren't matching their words. So you're just putting the guy in a confused state where now he has to make a decision, not even really based on what he wants to pick or what he wants to do. He's just feeling pressured sometimes in those scenarios. So I find that strange. I think that if you're dating and you want the intentions to be a relationship, you come out at the beginning and you discuss that before you proceed. Now, if you don't mind having casual sex and that type of thing, then you don't have the conversation. You let things go. Isn't that what they say? Go with the flow? Going with the flow is letting it be casual, not having expectations. But when you have the expectations, you have to state that at the beginning. You have to talk about that before you get to that ultimatum stage. Because when you get to the ultimatum stage, no one likes to feel pressure and have an ultimatum to make. No one likes that.
Well, I don't think. See, again, that's a prime example of where communication is so key, because I don't think women are aware of that. They're not aware that when they do stuff like that, it puts the man under pressure. I don't know if that's what they want, if they want you to feel pressured into getting into a relationship, or they just thought it was just a normal, it's just normal for them to do. But I think if it's not called out and you don't put them to an understanding that, like, that's not the way you approach a situation like that, of that magnitude, because a relationship is not something that should be taken so lightly.
No.
It should be something that's thought about, something that's been, in conversation. There's a lot of communication back and forth, trying to figure
Seeing
out.
that you're aligned, seeing that your
See if you're in
goals, your
alignment and
values, things
values
are
are in
matching,
alignment.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's not something that
It's not a quick
you
snap
don't
of
just
the finger.
Yeah, you don't just throw it out there.
And it's not because you're sleeping
And
with
it's
each
not
other.
trendy. It's not
Yeah.
supposed to be a trend or something that is.
And again, don't confuse lust for love. Like
Yes.
again, it's not just because you're sleeping with each other and kissing on each other why it should be a relationship. That's
Yeah.
what we have to get over, that fact, that
Yeah.
feeling of like the lust and the sex is so good. No, that's not gonna be.
That's not sustainable.
That's not sustainable, and that's not even what happens during sex. Is not that emotion during sex is not the same emotion you may get in a relationship.
Yes.
Right? So you can't take that emotion you're getting from that side of things and then make it into a relationship now. Because just because that's going on in the bedroom doesn't mean in the reality you're going to have that same feeling for that person. Or it's going to be the same feeling outside when you're doing stuff, when you're, either living together, whatever the case may be. Like I said, if your values don't align, if your morals don't align, how's it going to work out anyway? Even if you have that physical connection. I think that a lot of people have the physical connection, but they don't have that emotional connection. But they're trying
Or the spiritual connection.
Or the spiritual connection, but they're trying to take the physical connection and throw it in the relationship pot and say, let's just mix it up and see if it works.
See where it goes from there.
Yeah, and it's like, no. We have the physical side down packed. Of course, we know that. But we still have to get to the other sides. And the other sides take more time. The physical is the quickest.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that. And unfortunately, with women, since, again, women are the ones that have the value in terms of sex.
Yes.
So women are the ones that men go after and chase in order to get it. So they don't really see it as we see it.
Yes.
Because they feel that they can pick and choose who has sex with them.
Yes.
Well, they could pick and choose who
Yeah,
has sex with
yeah.
them. So they have that over a man. We can't pick and choose necessarily.
We got to earn that right.
We got to earn the rights, and then
So,
maybe we have
yeah.
options. But again, we still have to earn the right to pick and choose. So it's very different for them, where they feel like when they give it away, they need something in return, right? So unfortunately, it's almost like what's the word I'm trying to look for? It's the thing that makes them special. So obviously, I'm not saying that that's the only thing that makes them special, but it's the thing that gives them value to a man, at least for a relationship, especially having the ability to procreate. It's a commodity. It is what it is. And the fact of the matter is they believe that it can be leveraged in a lot of situations like a relationship, right? And unfortunately, a lot of men will acquiesce to what a woman says because they're getting sex. And that's not how a relationship should be. How I see it, it shouldn't just be based on sex and then you jump into a relationship. It always needs to be, a conversation that you're having prior, during, and as things are going on, as you're progressing. I think you always have to have that conversation of what it is you're trying to do, where it is you're trying to head in the relationship. You keep evaluating. Then when you guys are aligned and you're on the same page, you go to that part. But there's no point in saying, I'm going to withdraw sex if we're not going into a relationship.
Yeah.
Because to me...
Then it's not genuine.
To me, it's not genuine. You have to ride the ship. If you chose to have sex before and early, then you chose to have sex before and early. If you want a relationship, you can't hold that on his head. You have to say to yourself, well, I'm willing to continue this, but I'm not going to use sex as the reason why we should be in a relationship, because that's not enough. I think that we can't confuse that. We can't confuse lust for love. We always have to look at ourselves and say to ourselves, you know what? Sex is natural. Everyone has it. And just because you gave sex to somebody doesn't mean you're entitled to them making a decision on whether they want to be with you or not.
And I think that was a great way to conclude this podcast.
100%.
And this is the Far From Normal podcast, and we are out. Deuces.